This is a really, really nice bike. It's a 250cc single cylinder BSA and sort of set up for racing, but it's just too nice to be raced. Beautiful, beautiful work. Everything about it is beautiful. And I'm going to wire it. It's got some nasty wiring, and it does have a Boyer ignition system. So I'll wire that in. And it's got a modern rectifier here, full wave rectifier. I'm going to take that out and put in a Podronics rectifier regulator to get rid of this. Actually, I'm going to strip all the wires off of it and wire it from scratch. It'd just be easier. We got stuff hanging out. I can't even see why there'd be a bundle this big anywhere for any reason. And I'll wire it as a 12-volt system and fix up all this wiring. And what I'm going to do is take this toggle switch out of here and replace it with another toggle switch that will be, with the center it'll be off, with it to the left it'll be ignition on, with it to the right it'll be ignition on and lights on. And we're only going to have one beam because this bike is never going to be run on the road, so just one headlight for legality purposes. So it'll be off, ignition on, off, ignition on with lights. It'll be a clever little bit of wiring. It's just beautiful. The work is just very, very nice. Just as pretty as can be. I have small battery, and all of this wiring here, all this stuff, we'll just cut all this off and go from scratch. It's so much easier. This is going to be a very, very simple wiring harness, and lovely, just lovely. Okay, so we'll get started today and see what we accomplish. Okay, after a few minutes, progress has been made. This is all the stuff that's not going back on the motorcycle. Don't need the wires, don't need the switches, don't need the zener, don't need the, I don't know what all, we just don't need it. This part, these are going to go back on the bike. This is a very nice front fender brace. A power box, I've got a Boyer power box here left over from a previous project where I didn't use it, so I'm going to make him a really good deal on that. That'll be your rectifier and regulator built in together. This is the Boyer unit that's on the bike. It's going to go back on it. And this is the headlight light socket. Other than that, that's about it that's going back. I'm going to take this power box. We're going to take this battery box off, and I'm going to hook this to the back of here very neatly in this little gap. It'll fit in here just beautifully, like so. There, right back there. And that'll be a really, really nice package. These are the alternator wires, 2 wires, so it can be used for 12 volts. This coil is 12 volts, so I'm just going to use the Boyer as a 12-volt system. We'll just connect into these 3 wires. I'm not going to disturb these wires on the taillight. If they work, I'm not going to disturb them. I'm just going to put Lucas bullets on there and splice right into them. And right now the bike is about 10 pounds lighter without all that wiring. So that's where we are. Get a nice empty headlight shell, and looks a lot cleaner just without all those wires. Very good. Okay, now I've got all the wires off. Now it's time to put the wires back on. Here we go. Oh my, it's 3:30. And we started this wiring exercise at about 9 o'clock. It's been a full day. Here's the bike. Main wiring harness is installed. Wiring to the electronic ignition is all installed. The center bike wiring is all in place and wired. All the grounds, these 2 wires, this goes to the battery, this goes to the battery. The brake wire down here is wired. The tail light wires are wired. We took this taillight apart and put a light bulb in it, so it's wired. It's hard to explain why it takes so long to do this, but basically it's complicated, and there's a lot of wiring. The alternator wiring is wired. The wires from the electronic ignition are wired and up to the center. Coil is wired. Everything's wired up to the headlight. These are extra wires. Green and orange are extra, go all the way back to the center of the bike in case they're needed at some point in the future. This brown wire is extra. It's an extra brake light wire. If anybody ever installs a brake cable with a switch in it, they can hook it to that wire and the brake light will work. This is ignition. This is 12 volts from the ammeter back to the battery. This is black. It's 12 volts from the rectifier regulator unit, and it goes through the alternator. The blue wire is the tail light wire, and the red wire is a ground wire. I'll hook those up tomorrow, and then I'll make up my magic switch that goes up here that gives him ignition and ignition plus lights. It's amazing the effort that it takes to wire even a simple bike like this, but things look good, and the regulator rectifier is installed, and I'm going to call it a day right now and pick it up tomorrow morning. Oh, I know what. Let me show you what the end of a day looks like over here on my workbench. Yep, that's the end of the day. I don't even know what to call it. Just mess. And over here we have all of the shrink tubing in different sizes. I buy it in 100 and some 50-foot lengths, so I always have shrink tubing. Here's more shrink tubing down there, and I buy wire 100 feet at a time, and always have it on hand. Use a lot of Lucas connectors, bullets, and the singles and the doubles, and occasionally a triple. So what a mess. So I'm going to clean all this up and call it a day. I'm tired. Okay, a little bit of follow-up. I'm sure that somebody out there is saying right now, gee, wouldn't it be faster just to buy a stock wiring harness and put it on the bike? It'd take less time, wouldn't it? The answer is no, a resounding no. By the time you take out the wires that are not needed, because you're changing to electronic ignition and a solid state charge and rectifier system, add in the wires that you may need for a special headlight circuit or ignition circuit. By the time you modify that stock wiring harness, believe me, you've spent as much time making that nasty wiring harness, and they are nasty, fit the bike in question, because a lot of them are one size, universal, one size fits nothing, and you have to modify them for the model even. So no, putting a stock wiring harness on a bike is not easier or faster than just rewiring them from scratch. And I've been doing this for so long that, believe me, it's easier and faster to do a total rewire than it is to put a stock wiring harness on a bike and make it work.